Good morning, okay, at 7:34. Happy Wednesday to you. You know, if you're listening, you might be driving around in a car. Mm-hmm. You might be riding on one of the roadways throughout the North Mech area, maybe the Iredell County area, maybe Lincoln County, Cabarrus County. You could be on any number of roads, and that road got there not by magic. I think we can all agree on that. And it takes people, it takes resources, it takes dollars to make all of those sorts of things happen. And we always come back to the same question when it comes to transportation. How do you pay for it? That's what it always comes back to. Someone who understands that more than most joins us this morning is here, Larry Shaheen, the McIntosh Law Firm. How you doing, sir?
Oh, it's a real pleasure to be back as always with you all. My goodness, always a pleasure. Bob is cringing, you know that, right? Bob's in his office like, oh gosh, they have Larry. That's a problem for everyone.
You have been involved at the legislative level beyond transportation for years now. I'm curious to start with, how do you write law? Like, how does that actually work? Because you are actively involved when laws come about or legislators say, hey, I want to write a law. Mm-hmm. They sometimes call you, they call Bob, McIntosh Law Firm, to assist with it. Talk to us overall there, and then let's get into this new legislation.
Yeah, so when I came to the McIntosh Law Firm in 2019, it was after having my own private firm, and that private firm essentially was a private law firm for elected officials. So I did that for 8 years after getting out of law school. And two of my clients were John Bradford and Jeff Tart. So when those two gentlemen, were defeated in 2018, even though John came back and was able to go back to the legislature, I had served as their kind of chiefs of staff and lawyers for them for a long time. So I'd been involved. One of the key pieces of legislation that I was involved in drafting and helping implement was the 2013 revaluation fix. So when Mecklenburg County overvalued property to the tune of about $10 billion, and we knew we had to refund folks money back to them, there was no mechanism by which, if someone else determined that the value was off, that the county had to issue a refund and the cities had to issue a refund. There was no mechanism for that. So we had to go in and draft that. That was a crazy bill because that dealt with the constitutional issues. But most of the time when you're drafting legislation, there's some very highly technical aspects, and you have to have experts who know where all the different laws are and how you interact with it. And then reality is it's not just the drafting, it's let's go to the stakeholders, let's go to everybody involved, let's get everybody on the same page, and let's see if we can get consensus.
Do they like it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If they don't like it, it's going to be a problem. Look, you just saw just recently there was a shrimp revolution in eastern North Carolina.
Right?
No, seriously, I was in Raleigh that day. Actually, our bill, the transportation bill that we're going to be talking about here in a minute, passed the same week as the shrimp bill.
Yes.
So we're literally up there with all the shrimpers, and you got these shrimp trucks ringing the building, honking, going crazy. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, that could have been at us if we screwed this up. Well, I'm glad we didn't do it that way. My goodness. But no, I mean, it was what it was.
You didn't screw it up. So walk us through the legislation. What will Mecklenburg County residents be voting on in November?
Yeah. So it's been a real honor for the McIntosh Law Firm to have been involved in a lot of this. Let me tell you how we got involved and then what happened and then where we are now. So 6 years ago, Charlotte introduced this concept called Charlotte Moves, and it was a 13-member task force that was created by the mayor, and it was based on the concept of a Charlotte and South Mecklenburg focused transit and transportation improvement. The original plan, not this plan, the original plan was 90% rail, 10% bus, nothing for roads. Okay, that does nothing for any of the outlying communities. It did absolutely nothing, and it did not guarantee the red line, nor did it build the red line at all. In fact, it said we will never do the red line. As you can imagine, there were some upset folks in North Mecklenburg, as there should have been, because, oh my gosh, in 1997, there was this little promise that the red line would get built first. Not the blue line, not the gold line, the red line. And that we would be able to rely on North Mecklenburg getting its half cent back for all of its pennies that it's paid. Well, that didn't happen in 97. It didn't happen in 07, and it hasn't happened to date. So if we continue on the path we're on, we know that we're going to be stuck in congestion. We're going to be stuck in traffic. We're going to be stuck in ways where we can't handle our own growth. Justin, you know this better than anybody. The town board is constantly faced with land use issues where when they're trying to rezone property, traffic's the number one issue.
Almost always.
Almost always. And if you don't solve for that, you can't develop. So what wound up happening was our firm got approached by the Charlotte Alliance Foundation, the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, and said, "You all know North Mecklenburg better than anybody. How can we get everybody to the table?" So there were a group of folks. Actually, it was a group of folks involved. Warren Van Allen got very involved in this, and there was another lawyer named Kane and Huey. Walter Price is the government affairs director, and then there was a couple lobbyists, Towers Mingledorf, Bradford Sneeden, Beth Onyenwoke. I mean, just an absolute ton of really talented people who all got under. It's okay. We're going to come up with a concept. That concept was then sent to the city of Charlotte. City of Charlotte said, all right, let us take a look at it. They came back with some thoughts and said, okay, well, we need to get everybody in a room. So about 2.5 years ago, the managers for every municipality in the county and the city started meeting on a regular basis, and they started negotiating this concept. And what came out of that concept was the PAVE Act, almost the exact language of the PAVE Act. And that concept was negotiated very heavily, not just among the managers, the town council members all had input, the town mayors all had input, the managers all had input, the state had input, the business community had input. This is a true piece of consensus legislation. So that legislation was then taken to Raleigh, where we were given a 50-50 shot. Really, it was a 100-1 shot because we were asking Republicans for the opportunity to do a tax increase. But here's the reality of the situation. North Carolina has a $4 billion road and bridge transportation construction budget every year. $2 billion of that is roughly spent on roads. Mecklenburg County alone is a deficit of $12 billion in infrastructure needs. We're never going to get that, not to mention the fact that the General Assembly will not pay for rail under any circumstances. So let's start with that reality. We will not have the money to build ourselves out of where we are if we don't do something. All right? So the question then was what? What are all the funding mechanisms that you can come up with? Well, no one's going to go for an income tax. No one's going to go for a corporate income tax that's going to be specially around that. You and I have both seen TIF financing and how bad that is. So we're left with one option, sales tax. So the sales tax was what ultimately was decided because it generates the most for the least. And we've seen the pennies for progress model, which is exactly what this is, 1%, 1 penny per dollar. That's used in York, South Carolina. And in York, South Carolina, they've actually used it very well. And they continue to see, we now see better roads and transportation infrastructure in York County, South Carolina than we do in Mecklenburg County. That's not acceptable.
One of the concepts, no matter what's on paper, you brought it up 1997. There are still a large amount of people, percentage-wise, that remember that scenario, and it's hard for them to trust.
Oh, yeah.
What makes this time different, in your opinion?
Because written into the legislation is the requirement that this new authority, which is going to run the so let's talk about what the actual how the funding model works. So 40% is going to go to roads, 40% is going to go to the towns. So the towns have the ability to determine that. For North Mecklenburg, that's $1.1 billion in road funding over 30 years. Huntersville will get $700 million. Cornelius, $350 million. Davidson, $150 million. That's an incredible amount over 30 years. So you're talking about doing that first. The other 60% is just going to be split. 40% for transit rail projects, 20% for buses, going to be managed by a new authority. All right. So that new authority is written by statute. And that's authorized by statute. Written into the statute is the absolute requirement that they have to build the red line first. And they have to come in and show proof of work. You can't even complete any other project until 50% of the construction is done by a scope of work from a general contractor. Now, we have some good friends who have already, well, they can get out of that. They don't have to, no. It's 50% of a scope of work of a general contractor. No general contractor is going to be able to show 50% of the scope is done until rail's in the ground and they've done all their work. So there is no chance the red line doesn't get built.
And then for the dollars and the allocations, because I guess that's one of the other concerns. And whether it's true or not, right? The legislation says it. Can we trust that the dollars will actually make it? Cold hard cash makes it up here to the North Mexico.
Yes, because of the fact that 40% of the proceeds are going to come back to the towns, and we know that the red line's going to get built. Red line's cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3 billion. Okay, so that means you got about $700 billion, of which half the red line's in North Mex. So that means that we're going to get half the red line. Then we're going to, on a regular recurring basis, we're also going to get all that road money. In addition, bus does not just mean bus. It means microtransit. And there are microtransit pilot programs and zones already in place here in North Mecklenburg that are working. So for the first time, people get to go vote for their own penny to get brought back to North Mecklenburg. Because here's our option. Here's what we're choosing between. We're not choosing between this plan and a better plan. We're not choosing between the option to create a better plan. We're choosing between this plan and nothing. Because you want to know what happens if we get nothing? We keep getting screwed where all our half cent gets sent down to Charlotte. That's what happens. Nothing happens if we vote no. If we vote yes, we get all this funding. We get a penny for every dollar we spend comes back to North Meccan investment. And we're then going to be able to watch within 10 years the completion of something that was a promise to this community, and we're gonna see that promise fulfilled. I mean, my God, Rusty Knox and Woody Washam rode the ceremonial rail in '97.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's been a conversation for a long time.
Yes.
I would imagine, too, beyond just Mecklenburg County and Radio Fam, we're going to take a break here for a second. So Digital Fam, stick around. Larry, you mind sticking with us to the end?
Of course.
Okay, Larry's going to stick around to the end of the show. The concept in the rest of the state, and I imagine that people are calling you beyond Mecklenburg County at this point, talking about, is it truly a viable option?
Yeah.
What's that been like, and what do you think the future kind of holds at a statewide kind of level?
So on a statewide level, let's got to think about this. It's a referendum, right? So that means that the people are going to have to vote on this. Do you imagine that Alexander County is going to vote for this, or that Davidson County is going to vote for this, or that, Rutherford County? I don't think they're going to go for this, okay? Because you got a bunch of counties that this won't happen in. So that leaves the rings around the urban county. So that gives you 5 or 6 zones of opportunity. So you're talking about New Hanover County, maybe. You're talking about Wake County and its surrounding areas. You're talking about Guilford County, Forsyth County, Buncombe County, Mecklenburg County. So that means Union, Cabarrus, Iredell, Lincoln, Gaston. If those business communities and those elected officials care enough about this issue where they want to actually join this authority and create a real regional system, that's the best part about this bill. The model's already been written in. You can expand the authority. The only thing that you have to do to make this work is that the individual counties have to go to the General Assembly and ask for this. And you know what? You never, ever increase taxes unless your business community, your local municipalities, your local counties, and everyone is all together and on board. The only people opposing this plan today are, of course, all the anti-tax people who have every right to say that. We don't want a new tax, right? Okay, get it. We don't want growth. Okay, then you have all the folks who wanted more than a penny to do all rail, or wanted to spend the entire thing on rail. That's disingenuous. In the suburban communities, we have to have roads. I'm sorry. You can't get to your work in a bus. You can't get to work on a bus.
Right.
I live in South Charlotte. You know how long it would take me to get to work, to Davidson, to my office for Bob on a bus? It would be probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes to the city center to be able to get to the express line, which then goes another 45 minutes to Davidson. So you're talking an hour and a half, 2 hours for me from South Charlotte to Davidson. The reason this plan is such a good plan is because it is moderated, it's balanced, it's got options for everyone, it's going to increase mobility for everyone, it's going to increase economic mobility, and you're going to talk about how you're going to create all this opportunity. And oh, by the way, we're injecting almost $20 billion into the local economy, where our economic studies have shown we will get $10 back for every $1.
Okay. All right, let's reset in the room. I do want to talk about the transit authority kind of concept,
absolutely.
the group that'll be managing it, because I think that's important too.
Starts here.
Good morning, LKN 8:48. Hanging out with Larry Shaheen of the McIntosh Law Firm. November's going to be a big time here.
These elections in North Mech are going to be wild. So the Assembly already just wrote an article about Huntersville. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
They wrote about the NDO. You're going to want to go read that article.
This being an off-season, I call it off-season, right? Election, where it's not a presidential, there's not a big national presence. What's your take on that with this happening during this kind of off year, if you would? Do we see way more people because of the referendum, and that may have some trickle-down effect on the local? Do we think we see consistent numbers and, hey, it's just the way it works? What's your take on that?
So we've only seen this type of issue play out in 2007. That was the last time we saw one of these things. So that was on the repeal. Okay. All the repeal candidates lost because the business community went out, raised a bunch of money, and won. In this specific instance, you're starting to see a repeat of that. The only folks who have vocally been opposed, when I talked about this, there's the folks who are anti-tax, totally get that. There's the folks who are anti-growth, totally get that. Then there's the folks who say, we don't like this plan, we want more money, or we want more this or that. That's not reality. Everyone got together and the General Assembly approved this plan unanimously, pretty much. There were only 10 votes against. So this concept has been blessed by the managers. All of the municipalities except for Matthews blessed this. All of their electeds blessed it. All the electeds in Raleigh blessed it. The governor blessed it. If you're good waiting another 5 years for this, when it'll be double the cost and more expensive, go ahead, knock yourself out. I'm not willing to wait for that. And I don't feel like waiting in traffic any longer for that.
One of the concepts is going to be the legislation gets passed, but then again, it's not magic.
Yeah.
There's a committee. There's a
whole
transportation,
process,
but all of the give us and I'm making those words up. Give us kind of what it looks like after that. Let's go into the assumption. Okay, let's say it does pass. How does this all get managed?
So that's a great question. So the individual road dollars are going to be managed by these individual municipalities. So the 7 municipalities that make up Mecklenburg County are going to get a massive influx of transportation dollars. The bill is very clear in the roadway systems definition. That's all they can spend it on. And they can't reduce what they were previously spending on transportation in any way. And all that can be audited by the North Carolina auditor immediately. So that's how the road money is going to get spent. On the rail money, on the transit money, 60%, like I said, is going to the authority. The authority can also be audited, but the authority is going to be made up of 27 individuals who are appointed by the individual appointing bodies. So there's a whole list of appointments all being made by the community. But the 3 key important issues on that are that those authority members cannot be elected officials. All right. They cannot be lobbyists or lobbyist spouses. So no one who's got interests in any of this. And there's an experience requirement. The experience requirement is very specific about the areas that deal with the running of an authority. So the running of the authority is going to be done by a list of a board of trustees that is actually experienced in the actual building, running, and constructing of a rail or transit system. So we are going. There is electoral oversight. All the electoral bodies can remove their own appointees. But the goal with this authority is to establish something very similar to what we saw with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Hospital Authority. Oh, by the way, what's that name? That's right, Atrium. What is it? Oh, yeah, one of the largest hospitals in the country. This concept works. It's worked before. It's a model that we've seen be successful, and it's something that allows there to be some separation between the disparate interests that go into an electoral body, but it also gets good, solid, intelligent folks appointed to those bodies to be able to make sure that they're making good, smart financial decisions.
The other, going back to the trust factor, we're people, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, trust, there's a lot of broken relationships in this, right? Like, again, over decades.
And that's what we spent a lot of time overcoming. I mean, Justin, I'm going to tell you, it was tough there for a little while. I mean, you've got North Mecklenburg, who on the heels of the toll road issue is like, oh my gosh, we didn't get the red line. We were the first ones to get a toll road. No one up here was really all that happy about that. So I remember John Bradford told me when he was approached by this, John Bradford was like, I don't mind saying this because he said it publicly. He looked at the locals in Charlotte and said, I ain't doing nothing until you guys show me resolutions from all 3 of my towns on a piece of legislation that they're willing to support. Well, that's what we had. That was the mission, right? John Bradford at the time was the only Republican. Then you had Tricia Cotham. And thank God for Tricia Cotham. I'm going to tell you right now, Tricia Cotham doesn't change parties. This bill doesn't happen. We have no opportunity to build our way out of art. I mean, it's unbelievable how God kind of works through all that to make things happen. But at the end of the day, the North Mecklenburg folks and the folks in the outlying communities were like, we are going to have a say in this. We're going to sit down. We're going to fix and mend all these relationships. And what I will tell you, Justin, we have come out of this process as a community stronger, more unified. You'll notice the EMS issue didn't blow up like it could have. That's because everyone was negotiating about this. So everyone has kept their eye on the prize. And in my entire political and legal career, I have never in my life seen a situation or a scenario where everyone comes together, everyone decides to put all their arms down and says, okay, we're going to figure out a way to make this work. Because if we don't make this work, we're going to wind up either like Atlanta or Detroit. Okay, we're going to lose growth because we're already one of the most congested communities in the country, or we're going to be so congested that all it's going to do is push all the growth to the outlying areas. And as you and I have seen in all of our development work here in town, they don't like that. There are a lot of folks that don't want dense development in the outlying areas, and that's, of course, they're right. They're able to do that. Density belongs in the inner city. But to do that, you have to have transportation and you have to have people able to go somewhere. You can't have people not have benches at bus stops, right? You can't have the single mom driving an hour to school, then an hour to work, then an hour back, then an hour home. That doesn't work. We are at a point in our communities, in my personal opinion, we're going to be the 14th largest MSA in the country.
Wow.
In 5 years, we'll be the 10th. We have to do something. We cannot wait.
Well, and growth isn't going to stop.
No.
As much as people say they don't want it, people are still going to keep coming here.
Well, and that's exactly the point, is that this is the thing, is like, they're coming, right? And we can do one of two things. We can either upgrade, or we can wait till things break to fix them. If anybody's at a home and they know, it's quicker and easier to upgrade something and pay the cost then than it is to wait until it's broken and then have to fix it.
This next stage, another relationship that seems like it's going to have to be talked about in one way, shape, or form. Mecklenburg and Iredale, the relationship there is going to come into play, especially when we're talking about rail at some point.
Yeah, and that's where I think there's a lot of room to discuss, because you've got Mooresville's elections just happening here, so they'll have been on the heels of their elections. Iredell County will be up. You'll have some other discussions there, but look, Senator Sawyer was very clear. She wants this to be a statewide initiative. Totally understand that. Let's start in Iredell. Okay? If Iredell County would like to have a half cent for roads, or cent for roads and a cent for whatever else it wants to use, we'll support that. I'll support that. I will help find ways to make that happen. But that business community has to get organized in that group, and you have to have uniformity. And the county commission has to come to Raleigh and ask for it. And they have to find the courage to look at their own Republican voters and say, are y'all done with traffic yet? Because there ain't no magic money fairy to come down here and wave a wand and say, oh, here, build your roads. Doesn't happen that way.
With this year, again, being the election year, what's kind of the message for the public? Like, maybe someone says, I don't care. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't like politics. Yeah. You're trying to get me to come out and be a part of something I've been running away from my whole life. Yeah. What do you say to those people?
What I say to those folks is this. It doesn't matter whether you believe in politics or don't believe in politics. If you are tired of sitting in traffic, you have to vote for this. Because if it's only going to get worse, it's not going to get better. Because the only way it gets better is if we have a massive outflow of individuals from this community, which is not going to happen. So what I would tell someone who doesn't care is, are you willing on let's call it $1,000 TV. On a $1,000 TV, are you willing to pay $10 more to have less congestion? Are you? If you are, then please vote yes. If you're not, I understand, but enjoy congestion, because that's what you're consigning the community to.
Was there anything else besides the sales tax that even came close to an idea for funding? Because again, it's not magic. No. Was there anything even close?
No, because nothing generated the income, and secondarily, the issue was that you got to deal with the interplay between the General Assembly and Mecklenburg County. So I've already heard people say, "Oh, this is the corporations want this. Make the corporations pay for it." Okay, so let's be clear. You want a corporate tax in Charlotte? What's going to happen? Oh yeah, they're going to move. Because they can just up and move. We see it all over the country. They're not doing any more income taxes on individuals. The state will not do that. And the cities don't have that authority. And the county will never be given that authority, ever, under any circumstance. And then you've got like tax increment financing, which we saw fail in the Panthers deal. I mean, that just didn't work. You're never going to be able to make this a profitable venture, because the Romans understood this. Ancient Egyptians understood this. All of our great societies have understood that there are certain public works that have to occur. What is it the Romans did that helped build that empire? You know what it is? They built roads. Miles and miles and miles and miles of roads that are still there today. It's the most famous is called the Appian Way. It leads right to Rome. You know the old saying, all roads lead to Rome? Mm-hmm. Because they built them. That entire concept of Rome and all of the Roman Empire was built on the construction of infrastructure, aqueducts, roads, the concepts of public goods that we know will not make profit, but are built for the establishment and the creation of a wonderful society. This isn't about big government. This is about the concept of there are certain functions that the private sector cannot do. This is one of them. And if we as a community are willing to accept the fact that this is, I like to say I'm a Roosevelt Republican. Teddy Roosevelt made cities work. He was from New York City. You know, government can work. It can be run well. It can be run efficiently. It can be run cheaply. But It has to run. And we all know CATS doesn't work. We all know this current system doesn't work. North Mecklenburg is being screwed every day that we stay under this existing system. We have to change it.
Larry Shaheen, McIntosh Law Firm, McIntoshlawfirm.com. You can check him out. November, you can have your voice heard if you are a
Whichever way you
Mecklenburg
wanna
County
vote. Yeah.
resident. Thanks,
Make sure you
Larry.
vote.
No, you're very welcome, y'all. Thank you so much.
Serving you better than ever before. 105.9, 100.7. WSIC, Statesville, Mooresville, North Charlotte.